Victor Kilo number 3, Alpha Mike Lima, now with a different monitoring arrangement to last night. A different monitor receiver, in fact. It's the Pro2022, which must be all of 43 or 44 years old, but it has a very broad IF, which is handy for the extended bandwidth NBFM, not extended deviation, but extended audio bandwidth. Over the last couple of days, I've been sorting out recordings that I've made of various contacts with the potential of using them as fodder for fill-ins leading up to our crossband contacts, and I was lucky enough to find stashed away in an odd cupboard an old CD-ROM, one of the first, I think the first CD-ROM that I ever burned on a CD burner, on the, let me see, the date's given here, the 26th of August 1998, and it's a 160 meter DX contact including VK3 Alpha X-ray, VK3DNH in Northern Victoria, and VK3HK Grant, who in those days was in Burwood. I was recording this in our days in Surrey Hills, near the Telstra Tower at the corner of Harding Street. I was 2 streets away at Newton Street. And I recorded this off a very old Murphy B40 ex-Vietnam War receiver that I'd bought for something like $60 from Aussie Disposals about that time, an old British communications receiver which was notorious for drift. So if you hear the pitch drift in this a little, don't be surprised. The thing that makes this recording interesting is that it was recorded not only at a time of sunspot maximum, but actually during an aurora display with the ionosphere very upset. And this is the worst auroral gargle, I think you'd call it, that I've ever heard. Particularly over Eric 3AX, who was transmitting from Emerald in those days. So I'll hand it over to Eric in 1998. This is 28 years ago. Just about the first digital audio recording I did direct off air. VK3AML with a test transmission until 11 p.m. Handing it over to the boys on 1839 kilohertz 28 years ago.
I'll catch up to him tonight in the recording last night.
Yep. I'm still reading them Q3 to 4.
Oh yeah, they're still there, but I think it's dropped off enough. It's pointless calling him back.
Yep, yep. Oh, phenomenal flutter and multipath on your CW, Bob. Real musical warble on it, over.
Yeah, well, it was worse, not last night, about a week ago. We had such an intense aurora, you couldn't read CW. It just all ran one end to the other. The multi-part just blocked up all the in-betweens, over.
Yeah, very good. Oh, a very good friend of mine in the UK sent me that article on 160 meter propagation, you know, and Enigma, etc., the one we were talking about the other night, Bob, over.
No, well, I'll delete that from the envelope then. But that's the one I want you to give to Ron and Ken, over.
Yeah. I must try and get that CQ article. I'll try and get that issue of CQ if I can, and copy it on colour, a flatbed scanner, Bob, over.
Yeah, well, I haven't got mine in colour either, but it doesn't matter, but it would be handy to have the maps in colour. But it's a very well thought out and long studied article, that particular one. And you know, it doesn't answer as much as what it leaves in question, really.
Oh yeah, you're quite right there, Bob. You're quite right there. Yeah, it certainly poses. I mean, I've only scanned it tonight. Article 2. I scanned it tonight, and I'll read it at my leisure over the weekend, etc. I picked up from a good friend of mine, Harold Hepburn, a very, very nice split stator capacitor, all silver-plated brass. It's a beautiful capacitor. When he got it, it was in shocking condition. He made a pair of new end plates for it, actually, Bob. And it's got on a coil about 2.5 inches diameter, which has had the guts, what's the word, 2 coils. It's got about 60 turns on it, and it's, let me see. The coil is about 7 inches long, and it's got a centre section of about 1.25 inches that's been cut out and connected to a terminal strip, and it has two ends of about each of about 2.5 inches connected to the other ends of the terminal strip. But the capacitor is about 198 picofarad either half. It's either 198 total or 98 either half. Anyway, I'll suss all that out, but it might be a very, very useful capacitor to resonate with a good coil for 160 metres to make a balanced ground, centre tap ground tuning unit because of the split stator capacitor. I might have to use a roller skate wheel in parallel across it to give it a bit of extra capacity, but it'll work out very well, I think, Bob, over.
Yeah, that's right. I know they're handy, those capacitors. And, I never look at them for linears anymore. Big capacitors, I find they take up too much space. They're much handier in the antenna tuning systems. And as we were speaking the other day, you can shunt them up quite efficiently with roller skate wheels. Okay, on the coil. Coils and coils and coils. I've got to decide what I'm going to do with some of these, where I'm going to put them into use here. I've got a 50 and a 100, and the edge wound stuff. The 50 is, what did I say it was, 3.5 inside diameter or 4 inside diameter, I think. It's quite small. And the 100 is 4.5 inside diameter that I recall. So, they're quite compact. The other broadcast coils I've got, of course, are 6.5 or more inches inside. They're very large. And, of course, run into many, many, many micro henries. You'd be shorting out 90% of them. And they're beautifully made, beautiful material in those things. But anyway, I'll hang on to them and see. The edge winding, one explanation to me is they're edge wound, and it's supposed to distribute the microhenries more evenly or something like that. The capacitance side between the turns probably has effect, but it hasn't come into it. It's something to do with distributing the microhenries more evenly, over.
That's all bullshit, Bob. the inductance is linear with respect to the turns, unless the turns, the pitch of the helix is changed, Bob, over.
Yeah, well, that's what I would have thought too, but I still haven't got the full explanation of the flat wound, or whatever you like to call it, edge wound stuff, except it probably would be a low loss compared to an ordinary inductor, over.
Well, I think the best form of inductor for radio frequency work is one with a circular cross-section. Why I say that, Bob, is simply that the material concerned gives the lowest distributed capacitance with respect to the number of turns and the spacing. If you've got two flat edges to one another, you've got a very large effective surface area, as I'm sure you can appreciate, over.
Yeah, that's right. I'll make some of my uneducated, educated inquiries around the place, and there must be an absolute explanation for constructing them that way. You notice the Navy transmitters use the edge wound in the lower frequency. All the broadcast stuff I've got are all edge wound. I haven't found, except for the L-match inductor, which is copper tubing, silver-plated copper tubing. All the inductors I've got so far out of the broadcast side of thing have all been edge wound, over.
Yeah, that's right, because what dominates the requirement in the broadcast side of things, Bob, is the ability to carry current, and that is dictated by the surface area of the conductor. Now, in a rectangular conductor, you're going to get more surface area versus the cross-sectional area, and it would be cheaper to do that than wind it out of tubing. The other thing is that using edge wound at broadcast frequencies and low HF doesn't matter a tinker's curse anyway, because it just means you use less actual capacitance to resonate it at the frequency you want, Bob, over.
Yeah, okay, fine. Plus, I suppose edge wound is exactly the same surface area as if you used a round inductor, that basically takes up the same area, but you can squash more inductance into a smaller space and still keep the turns well spaced out.
Just for your information, the reason it sounds like it's gargling is that this is recorded off 160 metres. August 1998 was the first digital recording off air I think I ever made, and it was in the middle of an aurora display with lots of auroral interference to the propagation path, which is causing that gargling effect on the audio. That was on the original reception. It's not a distorted recording at all. Anyway, this is VK3AML running test transmission up to our crossband time, 11 p.m. Now back to the log recording. VK3AML testing.
Exactly, Bob.
It's an economic thing more than anything else. Well, that's all right. Yep. All you got to do is talk to me, you see, and make me brains tick over. But anyway, I'll have to work out how much inductance I need on the top of my top-weighted vertical, and perhaps that 50 microhenry coil might do the bee's knees, over.
I think it could well be, Bob. I think it could well be, and that would be a very, very worthwhile bizzo to try. But bear in mind that you've got to be prepared to suck it and see, Bob, over.
Yes, I'll have to. I've nearly completed a new top hat. We're going to play verticals here shortly, both umbrella and straight vertical, but I would prefer not to use an umbrella unless I have to due to the physical considerations of building the darn thing. They take up a lot of real estate and an awful lot of wire, and that's the query with Bob at the moment, VE7BS, which he's taking to Jack Melrose, to see if, one way or the other, if there is any advantage using the umbrella as against using just the LC top-loaded vertical version, apart from the fact you might get a bit more bandwidth in a shorter antenna. This is what he's trying to find out at the moment, Ada.
Yeah, well, it's let's face it, Bob, the choice of an antenna is driven for most hams primarily for what they can put up. Very few of us are blessed with the time, the monetary resources and the real estate to put up an ideal antenna, over.
Yeah, well, that's right, but I'm not looking at it from that aspect. I'm more interested in the short verticals. I'm more interested in trying out the short verticals over an elevated counterpoise. And before I go to the trouble of making an umbrella antenna, I'll probably try an LC antenna over the ground plane. And depending on the results from it and what the VE3CV has to say about it, I may not go to the bother of, I've got enough wire and stuff here to do an umbrella, but when you look at the size of the blooming thing, an awful lot of work if it's not going to work any better, Ada.
Yep, that's right, that's right. You see, the main advantage of an umbrella, as I read it, is that it is A, not as high, and B, it is, it uses less real estate too, of course, but the other thing I'd want to know is how well it radiates at lower angles. If one is to believe that article on 160 metre propagation, there is a lot to be gained in having a low angle radiator, Bob, over.
Oh, well, that's the idea of it. I don't think I've got all the data here on the umbrellas, although I'm not too sure. I'll have to go through it again. Jack Melrose's stuff, he did extensive tests on umbrellas, but much of a muchness if they're set up correctly. The radiation angle is still on the, around about the 30-degree mark, as is the top-loaded vertical. But the umbrella is more dependent on how well you construct it to the criteria.
Oh, I'd agree with that, because you will get phase reversal of currents, and therefore some nulling of radiation from the umbrella if that top-loading umbrella section is not correctly constructed, Bob, over.
Yes, I've just gone to get your envelope here. I'm sure I plumped this in here for you. Let me see, well, you don't need that now, the 160 metre band one. I'll take that out, but this one is efficient ground systems for vertical antennas. Yeah, they called it a mini poise. I don't know if you've ever seen that article or not.
No.
But I'll send it down to you. That's the one I'll want back very urgently. But going to summary of findings, blah, 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 blah. It's mainly to do with the ground system, so we won't go into that. But then he makes a model, the mini poise antenna system with a short top-loaded vertical radiator for 160 metres. It's only 30 feet high. It's LC top-loaded. The counterpoise is 100 feet by 100 feet and consists of 50 wires 6 to 10 feet above the ground, and nothing is grounded.
Right.
Yeah, you may think the 30-foot vertical is short to use on 160. However, a check of the literature shows us that ... an antenna of infinitesimal length, I can never say that word, subject to no losses, yields a field strength which is only 4.25% less than the field from a quarter wave vertical antenna. This makes a 30-foot high antenna, if used with a really efficient ground system, begin to look more attractive, over.
Yeah, well, that would fit in with my chook house vertical, Bob, over.
Exactly. Rather than an umbrella where all the galahs and magpies can stand on it and put their stuff all over your backyard and probably the washing as well.
You're not wrong there. How'd you be if you had it over the roof of your house, mate?
I don't drink the tank water much. 9 times, I've got 2 or 3 tanks here, 9 times out of 10 I just keep them full and empty them on the garden. But anyway, that's another story. This is a very good article. Yeah, it's called Efficient Ground Systems for Vertical Antennas. Elevated ground systems for vertical antennas have been a bit of a mystery for the past 60 years. This report of an extensive study shows some startling results. It's done by Doty K at CFU, whom you'll have heard of, John A. Frey, Frey, W3ESU, and Harry J. Mills, K4 Hotel United. And it's not just one of those over-the-weekend tests. This is a very long scientific investigation, over.
Yeah, sounds very, very interesting, Bob. I'd look forward to reading that, and I certainly will copy it with a lot of interest. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. Well, that was sent over to me along with that other article from Steve VK6 Victor Zulu. And I got an idea that Bob sent in the article out again. But anyway, I'll shoot it down to you in the package. But so I've got an acre of ground out the front. It's not flat as the only thing. It sort of flat in the plane going east-west or east-west. On the left-hand side, looking east, so the north side of it is the higher side, and over 100 feet it drops 5 feet towards the south. Now, I don't know if that will have any effect on anything if I put a counterpoise over the ground, over.
Oh, well, what the counterpoise in effect does is shield the ground from the antenna currents that want to return via the ground, and they return via the counterpoise, and that's what gets the efficiency of the short vertical up, Bob, over.
No, what I'm looking at is do I just run the counterpoise as per the slope of the ground so that it's equal all around. And if you look at it, then the main slope would be down towards the south. It would tilt down towards the south. Or does one elevate the bottom end of it so that one side of the counterpoise is in effect less capacitance to ground than the other side? What would it do to the radiation pattern? I'm talking about elevating it, over.
This is VK3AML putting out a test transmission consisting of a recording made during an aurora display. That's the reason it sounds sort of gargly, wobbly, sort of very fast flutter fade on this. It's not distortion on the recording. This is exactly as we were receiving it that night, the night being the 26th of August 1998. And as I said in a previous announcement, this is one of the first digital recordings I made off air burnt it onto a CD-ROM, which I've only just rediscovered after, 28 years. Thought I'd give it a play. So to take us up to 11 o'clock and crossband time for 439.225 is the talk-in frequency at 11. I'll continue with this replay. It consists of Eric VK3 Alpha X-ray, Eric Bugie, who was based in Emerald, and I think it's Chris, VK3 Delta November Hotel, who was up in northern Victoria, and they're talking on 1839 kilohertz, 160 metres. So this is some of the worst auroral flutter I've ever heard on 160. That's the reason I recorded it, but it does have some interesting sidetracks into 160 metre antenna techniques, top-loaded verticals, loading coils, etc., etc. Back to the recording.
Yeah, okay, well, forget capacitance to ground. Doesn't matter at Tinker's curves. It's not the capacitance to ground you're interested in. It is the capacitance with respect to the radiating element, the vertical. Now, in respect of the counterpoise, it would be better to keep it level rather than let it follow the slope of the ground down to the south. If you want to tilt the counterpoise, tilt it down in the direction you want the optimum radiation, and tilt it up in the direction you don't want the radiation. But otherwise, just keep it perfectly level. Over.
Yeah, okay, fine. We'll be using some of my 12-foot pine posts, I think, at the bottom end somehow, and perhaps at the western end of it then. No, I've looked at that, yeah, that's the only pity here. I've got no level ground, everything is downhill, so, but that one particular part of the ground is the flattest part on the property. At the eastern edge where it meets the highway, about 100 yards from the house, it drops away for about 2 miles, 3 miles, and just gradually rises again, but it never comes up anywhere near as high as the house, and it actually looks straight out towards the Grampians, over.
Yeah, well, it's a moot point. You're not interested in the ground immediately close to you anyway, and what you're basically doing is returning those currents back to the transmitter anyway from the antenna, and the antenna performance will be definitely influenced by the slope of the ground one way or t'other, Bob. So I want the Grampians to the northwest from you, aren't they?
When it's all fixed up efficiently, it seems to transfer the power very well, but it's my feeling that I'm still getting a bit of high voltage there on occasion, so I'm going to look to replace the existing inductor with a much larger one, over.
Yeah. Well, one with larger cross-section wire, larger surface area wire, that's the criteria, Bob, is the surface area, not the cross-sectional area, and that's the reason why they've gone for that flat strip, 6mm by 3mm or 2.5, whatever it is. All right, well, that'll be well worth having a go with, Bob. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here, mate, so I'll catch you a bit later. Look forward to catching you over the weekend, perhaps. VK3ZL, VK3AML, I'll be clear on your final. Cheers for now, Bob.
No worry at all. I'll go and make myself a cuppa and all that. I had to light the fire this evening. It's going to be a frost again tonight. It's beautiful outside, a beautiful day, and going to be the same again tomorrow. But I'll go and make myself a cuppa and settle myself into the evening. VK3AX, VK3ZL. We'll catch you later.
Yeah, may catch you briefly on this frequency a bit later after I've uploaded, etc. VK3ZL, VK3AX is now clear. Enjoy your cup of tea, mate. Catch you later. Cheers.
Yep, well, I'll see you later on.
All right, hello.
That concludes this transmission on 1839 kilohertz on 160 metres, 27th of August 1998, and it's currently about 9:37 p.m. Eastern Australian Standard Time.
And that was me 28 years ago. VK3 Alpha Mike Lima is now opening up receiving facilities on 439.225, if anyone is there. And we're standing by. Are you there, Peter? VK3ACZ, VK3AML.
Yes, Chris, no auroral flutter, a VK3ACZ, good evening.
Yeah, have you heard it that bad? I mean, that was the worst I think I've ever heard it, and I was fortunate I had access to the recorder at the time, but most extraordinary effect.
No, I wouldn't have even... You'll think I need to get my ears cleaned out, but had you not drawn my attention to it, I wouldn't have thought anything of it. I've heard some really raspy, not quite Donald Duck sound, but really strange auroral propagation. It's really funny too. I've beamed south to talk to a VK4, and then you turn the antenna around to aim it at VK4 and you don't hear them. So auroral propagation is fun, interesting. Quick rundown on what I got up to today, Chris. I actually did put an antenna up this afternoon. 3 new POTA parks, which is all right. It finally got me over 2,000 parks. That's not new parks, that's 2,000 in total. At this stage. I still didn't get Moreton Bay. There was somebody operating just near it, and it was a 3 parks for the price of 1, but I didn't get that. I had a contact with VK4 Victor November, Steve up in Bris boring on 30 metres, and it was very interesting because he'd been talking to some VK2s who were also strength 9, as he was, pointing a 4-element beam this way with 200 whiskey. Suddenly, the VK2 disappeared, being strength 9. I watched the signal go down to nothing, and I know that when 30 or 40 go long, you lose them, but that was the quickest. That was almost a sporadic E-type disappearance. It faded so suddenly. So I was very keen to make the contact with him, which I did, only running 10 watts with my FTX, Yaesu FTX. So that was nice to do that. This evening I went up the hill and I worked my regulars on 23 centimetres, that little net that we have.
You went up one tree hill?
No, just something 700 feet above with a bit of a view to the west and the city. Interesting, annoying thing though, I had to get the parking Nazi. I parked out in front of somebody's house. I was clear of the road, but he resented me being there, so he insisted that I move. And as much as I would have liked to have argued the point with him, there wasn't much point, so I just moved 100 metres.
What was the basis of him complaining?
Oh, he wanted portholes in his coffin, basically. I'm slowly giving up on trying to understand people. But anyway, I pointed my 18-element beam west, and 3NL in Mary Moo, or Happy Cow as he calls it, he was about 10 over 9 both ways. So very nice 23 centimetre signal. Okay. Tonight, so that's about the size of the radio. Was there anything else for this over? No, that's enough. Back to you. What did you get up to today? 3AML, 3ACZ, crossbanding.
Well, not a huge amount. I was involved with 3AOB, Brit in Linton. We were exchanging digital slow scan pictures back and forth on 7214. It's an odd frequency to choose, and obviously it's not usable after dark because of the Chinese broadcasters, but 7214, and that's just above the frequency. The only broadcaster that causes that frequency problems is the French shortwave service, which I think I mentioned last night, is digital on 7205, but it's 10 kilohertz wide, digital radio mondial, and it's on every day from 1 p.m. to 1:30. If you see an odd stream on your waterfall at 7205 between 1 and 1:30 p.m. Melbourne time, you'll know what it is. French digital broadcasting.
I might have been blaming Free TV for that. Sounds like a vacuum cleaner engine.
Yeah, it's sort of a grinding noise, like somebody with false teeth that are clashing together all the time.
That might be another one again. I'll listen out for it.
It's, as I say, 10 kilohertz wide, which is what differentiates it from amateur transmissions. The EasyPal transmission is 2.7K wide, and I think that FreeDV is only 1.5K wide, but they're all the same sort of a band of simultaneously frequency modulated subcarriers, multiple subcarriers close spaced. And what that does make critical is transmit and receive frequency stability. I would never attempt to receive a digital slow scan or digital radio mondial on a valve receiver unless it was an exceptional valve receiver in exceptionally good condition, because most valve rigs just drift too much to make it viable. But I still see lots of enthusiasm for old valve clunkers from the 1960s on YouTube and internet, so there must be a lot of fans of them. But yeah, I'm slowly going through digital and tape recordings that I've got here, and I have recorded an awful lot over the last 58 years. If only I do 3 or 4 amateur recordings a year, over 58 years, that's quite a few amateur recordings. So I'll dig up whatever else I can find. I note that on this same CD-ROM that I had the auroral 160 metre reception, I've also got 80 metres slow scan TV recorded in August 1998, and a complete recording of VK3AML Dural from 40 metres AM on Sunday the 23rd of August 1998. So, stashed away on these various media, cassettes, reel-to-reel tape in the very early ones, and digital, in aggregate I've got quite an archive of the stuff. Anyway, back to you. VK3ACZ, VK3AML.
Yes, thank you, Chris. Speaking of recording, I've gone to the effort of locating little SIM cards to stick in most of my radios now, and I never think of recording interesting things. Even tonight would have been good. Oh, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned 3NL Adrian is at Merrimoo. That's 75 kilometres away, so 10 over 9 signal is on 23 centimetres is pretty cool. I made a couple of contacts on 40 late this afternoon. One was Paul 5PAS with the 5 International Police Association call sign.
Yes.
And I actually got to, he's usually in a hurry to work as many as he can.
He's an old cop, isn't he, I think?
He sure is. Well, he was telling me tonight he had 40 years in the job, 30 of them in plain clothes. He said, which included homicide squad and child protection units, both of which I think would scar you. I think you'd see the worst of the worst. I know what it was like when I worked in the psych unit at the Children's Hospital, so I hate to think what Paul has seen. But anyway, he was telling me how much he loved retirement, and I couldn't resist it. I had to throw in, one good thing about your job, Paul, is the customer is always wrong.
No.
Anyway, I think he let that one go through the keeper. But anyway, awful wind tonight, Chris. I had trouble keeping my beam pointing due west. A couple of times there, the signal went down to strength 2, and I got out of the car and looked, and yes, she's pointed south. So I need to rig up a better system where I can secure the thing. But I'm a bit worried about tomorrow night. I had high hopes, or have high hopes, of being on that 160 metre net again, but I'm not putting myself through what happened last time where I thought I'd busted my mast. So I might be missing in action for tomorrow night.
Okay.
The wind, the forecast from the weather guessing department's saying up to 40 kilometre an hour winds for the next few nights. Back to you.
Okay, so it's 160 metre. What frequency?
1855, lower SS, of course, lower SB, and 2100 hours, and VK3 gunshot residue. Jeff in Ardmona is net control, and I didn't listen on the first week. Second week I did listen, and there were 20 call-ins. And last week I think including me, he had about 17. Oh, and a news flash about the Master Blaster. I got a very encouraging text message from him to say that and I won't mention for privacy concerns, I won't mention, but you know what he's aiming for. He's up to the next step in the process, and it's looking very, very good at this stage.
Okay, so we may actually be able to talk to somebody south of here.
Correct. It's looking good, but then again, I always thought it would, because he's a good operator.
I imagine he presents fairly well in interviews and such too.
Sure. Well, that's my impression. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I went to one of his presentations at the Rosebud Hamfest about 8 years ago? Possibly. 2018, and he talked about the problems that the department has, and I remember, I think a lot of amateurs who were in the audience were expecting it to be a heavy session of being told what amateurs shouldn't do. But no, he talked about the problems they have with things like mobile phone jamming devices, which are used by bosses to stop their employees skimming internet while nominally doing their jobs. And the problem with them, of course, is that they buy these things from abroad. They're fairly high-powered, they have to be. And if you set it up in your business, you can't guarantee that the business next door is not going to be blotted as well. And the business next door may be reliant on internet for sales or whatever. So they've got a big problem with those things.
Yeah, not quite the same thing, but in my final employment before retirement with Decline, we were issued our own mobile phones, I think up to $40 a month free of charge. After that, you were supposed to pay for personal calls. I don't think anybody ever did, because some racked up large amounts and never heard from the establishment. But we weren't given access to the internet on our phones, which is a real nuisance. So most people carried another one anyway. Blast. I had another thing going to comment on.
You mean to tell me they issued you with mobile phones that could not skim internet?
Yep.
I would have thought that for distress purposes that internet connection might have been desirable under some circumstances, but obviously there are some miscreants within the railway department.
Oh no, it was just that bosses had internet access, foremen and the likes, but not the plebs, not the drones, the one doing all the work. Who got all the blisters after the work. Actually, blister was a name for a please explain report too. If you got blistered, it meant you needed to fill in a report. I did derail my train of thought. It'll come back to me, something else I was going to say.
Yes, I remember Tony in the 70s quite frequently used to get missives from the department which were second hand from Mother Grundys who'd objected to Tony transmitting on 160 metres with the quality that he had. In fact, one time, I must get the crossband and play it. One time, a couple of old hams rang him up and complained that his quality was too good for amateur radio. He should be using a carbon microphone, and communications quality, which after he quizzed them for a while, he found out that what they wanted was distortion and noise and clipping and etc. So Tony and the boys ASE, VK3GX, Lindsay, a whole group of them. One hilarious night, I think it was in 1977, got together, pulled all of their ribbon microphones and expensive condenser microphones out and rigged up a mic transformer and a carbon mic and made sure they held their finger on the active lead of the microphone so there was lots of nice hum. And turned the volume up to the point where everything was distorted to the crap. And made all sorts of stories about, oh yes, I've my audio is way too good. I've just got to distort it a bit more. Am I still intelligible? If I am, that's bad news. It went on like that, Pete.
Oh yeah. Oh, I remembered what I'd forgotten earlier. You mentioned that Master Blaster gave a very good lecture at the Rosebud Hamfest.
Yes.
I'll tell you who else gives a very good lecture.
3YE?
Yes, yes. I sat through two of his talks about various things, or pedestrian portable being one of them, and very, very good. He gets his points across very, very well. He's no absent-minded professor. He's very good, our Mr. Yankee Echo.
Yes, he usually very succinct, does his stuff in point form. It's the opposite of my YouTube uploads, which is the reason why I get about 200 clicks in a year for my sessions, and he gets 20,000 because the average person doesn't have the time to go through 2 or 3 hour uploads that I make from time to time. So Peter is succinct, to the point, and can be quite funny. I remember one particular session he did from the beach at Chelsea where a dog attacked the tripod of his podcast video recorder, dragged it around.
Attacked and not just lifted its leg.
No. He grabbed a leg of the tripod, and Peter sort of suddenly goes at 45 degrees, and then the camera's taking a photograph of sand from very close. And he left that in the recording, thank goodness. But he certainly has a good sense of humour for things like that. And that all helps to make the stuff palatable.
So our dear Pete isn't just a good YouTuber with a lot of things from left field, you know, thinking outside the square and making it interesting at the same time. He's also very good in person.
Yes.
Conveys his knowledge very well.
No, I totally agree. Peter, if there were more operators like Peter, it'd be a better world generally. Callum Moga over in Britain, I suppose, is a parallel, but he's not. Callum isn't limited to QRP. He deals with all sorts of rigs and all sorts of issues, including on-air manners and politics.
With a very humorous take.
Oh, yes.
Not just the band police one, that 160 metres where he imitates the various people is just, it's gold. It's really good. I'm actually quite pleased that I got to speak with him on 20 metres one time. You know, it's one of my novelties. Another YouTube Elmer who unfortunately is silent key was...
the old bloke in America?
Yeah, W6LG.
I remember seeing him from YouTube post to YouTube post. He was slowly declining, poor fella.
Oh, he looked terrible for a long time. Yeah, he was battling ill health for a long time, but got to speak with Jim. That's right, your YouTube Elmer from Rocklands, California.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting radio activity in California, much more than most other states, I think. And I don't know quite why that is. It may be that, you know, compared to all of the eastern states, they're a long way away and have a lot of people in California. I mean, the population of California, I think, is about the same as that of the whole of Australia.
A question regularly comes up if you ever do the QRZ quiz, trivia quiz, as I do most days. There's which zone in the US has the most operators, and I'm pretty sure it's 6, a la California West Coast.
Yeah, although Salt Lake City is W6 as well, I think. It used to be W was the West Coast and K was the East Coast, but like most administrations now, the numbers and the prefixes have all become mixed up.
Yes, they ruined it, just like we did.
Well, with New Zealand too, it's a bit confusing. It used to be ZL1 is the north part of the North Island, ZL2 is the south part of the North Island, ZL3 is the north part of the South Island, let me get this straight, and ZL4 is the south part of the South Island, but now it's somewhat mixed up. I'm not sure what Kermadec and the offshore islands were, but I think they have a different prefix, not ZL. Something like ZU or something like that. I'm not quite sure.
Sorry, which one was that?
Kermadec, or the Chatham Islands. I think they have a slightly different prefix.
Yeah, it's ZL7.
Ah, okay. So there's ZL1, 2, 3, 4. I wonder where ZL5 and 6 are.
I don't know either. It's just that I've worked the 2 guys who purport to be on Chatham Islands. One says that he spends half his time on the mainland, if you call that. Well, one of the 2 islands must be the mainland. So 50% of his time is at Chatham, and the other one, I think he said he lives there permanently. But I haven't heard any of them on, and they do attract a bit of a pile-up from time to time.
It's an interesting place, incredibly isolated, because east of there's nothing in the Pacific until you hit Pitcairn, and God knows that's isolated enough. But it's, I think, in the order of 500 kilometres.
Except for Mr. Fletcher.
Mr. Fletcher. Fletcher Christian, you mean?
Sorry, yes. No.
No. Yeah. And
Mr. Bligh, who broke the record for, how far was it they rode?
Yes, the trouble is Captain Bligh is remembered probably by the impressive but inaccurate performance of him by Charles Lawton in Mutiny on the Bounty, the mid-1930s film.
And for hiding under his bed or in a cupboard or something.
During the Rum Rebellion.
To be during the Rum Rebellion?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, that. For part of my research, for one of the compilations I was doing for the National Film and Sound Archive, I had to go to a part of archives that were in the basement of the old Parliament building, the really old Parliament building, I think 1802 or something, the oldest part of it, the old Parliament building in Macquarie Street in Sydney. And I noticed that I was in the basement floor of this place, sandstone, very old. You could see the beams above you, the floor above, were rough-hewn. Obviously somebody had used an axe and just split beams out of gum trees that were in Sydney at the time. And I said, is this where that famous incident where Bligh occurred, where he was hiding under the bed so that the New South Wales Corps couldn't detect where he was? And he said, well, not only are you in the right floor, you're actually sitting where the bed was. And that felt a bit creepy.
I'd always thought that's probably apocryphal, but even if it wasn't, I don't know that anybody could blame him, because I'd probably be a bit yarra after that long voyage in a small boat.
Yeah, well, I think Sydney at that stage was just an outpost of about 5,000, and there, even at that time, I think that's 1806 or 8. I don't think that it was still very much undecided as to whether Sydney would be a permanent colony or whether they would decolonise it as they did Norfolk Island for a while. I mean, Norfolk Island was settled, I think, in the 1790s, but then in the 1810s or 20s they decided to remove the convicts from there, and that was the end of settlement on Norfolk Island for quite a while.
For steak and kidney, I wouldn't mind if they nuked the joint.
No!
Turn it to glass and start again.
You never know where this podcast might reach, you know.
I'm joking, of course.
Well,
it's boring that should be nuked.
Well, I spent quite a bit of the 1990s in Brisbane, and the winters were glorious, but there was one year I had to go up to Griffith University during December, and I almost died. You know, we had the tropical downpours with sheets of rain coming down, and I mean sheets. It didn't come down in drops. You could actually see these things like large glass sheets dropping out of the sky, just aggregated raindrops. I'd never seen anything like it before. And of course the whole of the garden that I was looking out on while that was going on was you know, covered with a stream of water to a depth of about half an inch. It really buckets. It's something we just don't experience at these latitudes.
Yeah, I've been there in winter, and it got up to 12 degrees during the day and was fairly miserable. But I've also, I've experienced the humidity, but it gets worse the further north you go. Townsville and above. Now I keep changing my mind. New Townsville. No, Darwin was it was inexplicable for me. The humidity was so terrible in April, but I was told that by April things have normally settled. They said that it was unseasonably unpleasant. I would imagine that the build-up in November would be absolutely Scheissenhausen in Darwin.
I've never been to Darwin. Can you describe it as you found it?
Well, I was there in 2002, and I don't think there was a building more than about 6 stories high. Lots of memorials for the cyclone Christmas date 74.
Yep.
The post office had some very graphic pictures all over the walls about it and that, but it was hard to imagine it ever had been. The vegetation, of course, is totally different. It's really tropical, laid on.
Yep. Creepy crawlies?
Yes, creepy crawlies everywhere, lizards in the hotel rooms. I was swimming one evening in the hotel swimming pool, and I just had this feeling that somebody was watching me, and I looked across, and there's this really big green tree frog sitting on the edge of the water, about as big as my fist.
Gosh.
And he was looking at me with this, would you hurry up and get out of there? I want to go for a swim or something like that. Look, it was so strange. You know you're in a different world because of the vegetation, if nothing else. Jacarandas, all sorts of almost banana plants in people's yards. Mind you, you see some of that in Brisbane. What used to surprise me about Brisbane architecture, not so much now. The last time I was there, it was a lot of new brick places, like around Mount Cravat. Could have been Rowville for all you knew. But the houses on stilts, and I know it was done for cooling purposes. You know, you had the bit underneath the house. That was significant. You knew you were in a different world. I felt then. I'm talking about the 70s. Right. But to describe Darwin, the pictures and images I've seen recently, it looks like they're starting to get not quite skyscrapers, but the CBD has really built up a lot since I was there in 2002. And I assume everything is cyclone-proof, or you hope it is.
Well, I understand that the building codes have all been changed very markedly. I mean, basically, a lot of the buildings were before Cyclone Tracy were of the Queensland type, fibro or light timber sitting on stilts, and of course fibro and the light timber just blows off. It becomes a flying object, and you can imagine, particularly if the places had ripple iron roofs on them, flying pieces of ripple iron are just the thing to decapitate people if they're walking around in a high cyclonic wind.
Yeah, even a bottle unsecured in a yard apparently can be a very dangerous missile. Something else I remembered about being up there was I went walking in the shallows because I'd seen a couple of Aboriginal women, I presume, getting shellfish or similar. And the water was so warm, it was like a tepid sort of a warm bath. It wouldn't be all that cooling. But somebody, a local, got a hold of me and said, you better not be in there because of jellyfish.
Oh, the stingers.
And when I said I thought it was outside the season, they said, yes, it is outside the season, but you always get stragglers. So, you know, what the Aboriginal women were doing, I would assume they've got local knowledge and they know to avoid it. Mind you, the water was all, you couldn't see more than an inch in it. It was very, what's the word?
Full of mud.
Yeah, well, opaque is not the right word.
Which makes it even more sinister because you never know what you're stepping on.
Yeah. And I remember being on the wharf too. A couple of funny things about the wharf. First of all, there was a fellow fishing and he had his fishing rod down on the deck. And I watched the line go tight and then the rod went straight over the edge and into the water before the guy could reach it. So I don't know what he caught, but it was big. And while I was there too, I went for a seaplane flight, which was lovely because the only time it was cool in Darwin was when you're at 2,000 feet with the windows open.
Yeah.
But I was very nervous at the same time because there was an American warship also at the dock, and I had this terrible fear that somebody would be sitting there at the control desk saying, "Oh, there's an incoming missile. Oh, press the button and send a rocket up."
Yes.
And if you think that couldn't happen, you need to remember what the Yanks did in the Suez Canal when they shot down a 737 that was a passenger plane.
Back then, highly unlikely, but these days I have no idea what those people are going to do next, frankly.
Yeah. So, the other funny thing about that was there are times when you wouldn't mind being an American sailor. Because I kid you not, there were women on the dock, and the guys were hanging over the edge of the railings on their ship, and the women were flashing their bazookas and their Salt Lake cities and all that. And I was as jealous as, and of course the sailors were just lapping it up. Don't ask me why the women would be presenting themselves, or maybe they enjoy being a tease, but that was interesting.
I've actually struck that sort of thing, but strangely enough in Hobart, because when this is back in 79 when I was living in Hobart, the big USS Enterprise came in, big aircraft carrier, and Hobart is a deep water port, whereas Melbourne, the Enterprise, I don't think the Enterprise can get into Port Phillip Bay, so it doesn't visit here, and I think may not be able to anchor completely in Sydney, but in Hobart they could, and that's the first time I noted sexual preference going on with dancers. There was a big dance hall that was opened to welcome the American sailors. For local women to get in was free. For local blokes to get in was $50, and that was a hell of a lot of money in those days. So obviously it had been socially arranged beforehand with a favourite for the sailors, and I wouldn't mind betting that there was a slight increase in activity in the maternity ward 9 months later.
That or the VD clinics were doing the roaring business.
That takes less than 9 months. I think it's about 6 weeks or something. Incidentally, one of the hilarious tracks I was thinking of playing tonight, you can find anything on the Internet Archive. And one of them was a lecture on how to get gonorrhea. I would have thought that you could sum that up in a sentence or two, but this was a 15-minute talk. Mostly the latter half of the talk was how to get rid of gonorrhea, but I just found the whole premise of the thing somewhat hilarious. I know that Ivy, VK3AML, one of her interests years ago, I haven't heard her on the air for years, she may not be active anymore, used to live down near Druin with Hannah, her partner, and Ivy collected videos and old film of sex education, the older the better, and generally the older they were, the more hilarious they became because people were more and more repressive. There was one particular film she showed me of sex education in the 1920s, and they talked about intercourse and sex, but to make it safe with the senses, they had no life form performing the act that was any higher than a slime mould. You got to see how the slime mould had male and female and produced a zygote, etc., etc. And how the kids of the 1920s somehow related this to sexuality in their own instance rather leaves me slightly puzzled. But, you know, amateurs have some interesting hobbies, and that's one of the weirder ones I've heard of, collecting sex training films from the distant past. No doubt it's a good indicator of the social system of the time.
Have you got any copies I can borrow? Well, there's one thing. Celibacy has got its good points, and one of them is not needing to visit one of those so-called clinics. I tell you what's absolutely frightening is when you do research into what the treatment was for certain diseases of that kind, say back before antibiotics.
Oh.
The one where they put the equivalent of a squid jig up the urethra and then scrape the entire lining.
I felt that.
Harvey Bear's thinking about that is barbaric to the extreme. On the subject of movies, though, and moving a bit away from that uncomfortable subject, I this morning watched Angel and the Bad Man, which I recorded on SBS, and I didn't realise it was an old John Wayne Western. I just saw the synopsis for it and set my recorder and found out as I was going along. But goodness me, I don't know what everybody saw in John Wayne. I mean, it's reputed that Stalin actually had a contract out to have him killed at one stage. But I just don't think he was even a good actor, just a one-dimensional character. But the point I was going to make, though, was that Gail Russell was his sidekick. She was a Quaker woman who turned him from being a bad guy into a good guy.
Yeah, she was a tragic actress. She died young of alcoholic.
36, yes. I say you know the story.
Yeah.
They found her dead in a room full of bottles and with malnutrition and the like. And,
terrible.
Terrible story. I was just grieved when I read about her.
Yeah, so many of the young hopeful women, particularly in Hollywood, 30s, 40s, 50s, were sexually taken advantage of, and as they aged and their looks went, their contracts also went, and quite a few of them ended up on the streets or on drugs.
One thing, poor old Gail's looks couldn't have gone, because at 36 she didn't have a chance to, although once she was malnourished and chronic alcoholic, I dare say she wouldn't have been the best, but yeah, just an awful sad story. But a woman with drop-dead gorgeous looks and all that too, that the world could have been her oyster. And of course we know that there are way more important things than physical appearance, because let's face it, physical beauty's transitory. You don't stay that way forever, and if your value system only rewards or is encouraged by that, then you're pretty shallow. But as I said, I just felt sad.
Yeah, there are quite a few instances of actresses who've gone off the rails. Margot Kidder, who played Lois Lane in the Superman movies of the late 70s.
Yes, she was a honey to look at.
And she eventually ended up on the streets with bad teeth and alcoholism and a drug problem. And I think she gradually clawed her way back up into movies, not in a big way, but died well before her time. Another one was that cute little girl who was in Happy Days. I forget her name, but she hit the skids fairly early. Joni Loves Chachi was the spin-off series, and
Yes, I know who you mean. I can't think of her name.
and she apparently, the trouble with some of the girls involved with this, it goes to their head and they expect special treatment.
Yeah, I don't think Wednesday from
Lisa Loring.
Lisa Loring. Yeah, I don't think she had a great life. Well, I mean, she was married to a porn star.
Yes.
But she met him while working in the production of it. I don't know. I've known a few women who've said they were receptionists at brothels.
No.
But a bit more digging down, you find that they've got an awful lot of receptionists at knock shops.
Yes, horizontal reception. Okay, yeah. Locally, bit of gossip, but I suppose it's public knowledge now. It wasn't at the time I was told it. When I used to be, I was the Vice President of the International Association of Sound Archives Australian chapter for about 3 years in the early 1980s. Peter Burgess, I think, was the president at the time. He's now dead. But one of the art directors and sound men from the Sullivans used to come to our yearly confab in Canberra, the Sound Archives confab. And there were people that had worked for a great deal of time for Crawford's, which I believe had a great esprit de corps about it. And David Heinrichsen, that was his name. And over a convivial glass in the evening of giving talks, and he gave a talk, I asked him, is there anybody in the crew that doesn't really fit in? And he looked at me and he said, there's one fly in the ointment with the Sullivans. Her name is Susan Hannaford. Apparently she used to dare the management to remove her, knowing that she was a very popular character as the daughter of the Sullivan couple, and dared them to remove her, and she behaved abominably with the other people, treated them as beneath her. She used to turn up in a hired Rolls or Bentley, I think it was, with her boy toy of the time, who incidentally they believed was paid. She disappeared for about 15, 20 years and turned up again in California looking absolutely bizarre. I don't know whether you saw the exposés done by 60 Minutes, but she had set up companies selling bogus real estate. She had, contracts with cosmetic companies. She'd been through a series of what looked like half-botched cosmetic surgeries, just totally bizarre lifestyle. So I don't know where she stands at the moment, but she'd made a huge amount of money in California. She had a daughter. I don't know who the father was, but I think everybody in the Sullivans was glad to see the last of her. But that story has hit the press, so I'm at liberty now to talk about it. But at the time, which would have been 1981 or 82, it was told to me in confidence. Now it can be other than in confidence. Back to you.
VK3AML, VK3ACZ, crossbanding. You mentioned the Sullivans and unfortunately or otherwise, Lorraine Bailey.
Yeah.
Opie Still, My Beating Heart, immediately comes to mind. Oh, what a honey. I was
recently deceased, unfortunately.
Yes, not so long ago. But, home, my fantasies. But there you go. I think I told you before I met Cornelia Francis, Sister Scott from the Young Doctors, and You Are the Weakest Link.
You Are the Weakest Link. Goodbye.
Yeah. Anyway, she, of all things, I was up for a wedding in Sydney at that, what's the name of the famous place? And she was a waitress kitchen hand. So obviously the TV game wasn't paying good money at the time.
Oh, look, I think with a lot of those people, Gerard Kennedy was one, you get the impression that they're very highly paid, and they might be for the period that they're on the screen. But, you know, even the longest production feature film would be only a few months. And then you have a long period of potential unemployment, particularly in the Australian film industry, where you're earning nothing. So
I saw another episode of Division 4 this morning as well with Judy Jack as a prostitute.
Oh, I met her.
Yeah, I know. And a real, she was a rough, tough one too, you know.
She has a lovely,
the other girls.
My memory is that she has a lovely, deep and soothing voice.
She does, yeah. Oh, and beautiful blonde hair and all the rest of it. But Judy Jack. And I've mentioned before that I saw her in a 1966-ish episode of something or other, a Homicide, and it was Judy something other. Jack might have been either a new trade name that she put up or it was a married name, don't know. But
I don't know, but I think there was a singer who's a good friend of mine named Judy Jacques, Jacqueus, and quite often those two, particularly in the 60s, got confused. Judy Jacques was a pop and jazz singer, occasionally folk, whereas Judy Jack I don't think ever sang. She was an actress. She also was the host of the first children's session on Channel, was it 7 or 9? I forget which. It was one or the other. And I was a member of the Judy Jack Club in 1957.
Well, I'm a member of it now.
Yeah.
Only she doesn't know. Actually, I haven't seen, I don't think I've seen even a picture of her since 1973 or thereabouts, but I bet she still looks good today. Gerard Kennedy, yeah, I finally look at him now and think he's no longer with us because I think he passed only sometime last year. But I much preferred him as Crag in Hunter, although it was a little bit far-fetched that he was a nasty killer with the bad guys and suddenly became a good guy.
Yeah, I think
Hunter had a few little script problems, I thought.
That walleye effect made him an excellent villain, I think.
Exactly.
I don't know how else to describe it. That sounds very prejudicial, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, he had a squint, simple as.
Yeah.
But very popular, apparently, reading the stuff from back in the 70s, you know, and I don't know if you call it Logie or whatever it is, you know, he was winning the awards as popular actor and all that stuff. Look,
we better pause to see if anybody else would like to join, if anybody else is that insane. Yeah. So, any other stations would like to join us on 439225, VK3AML, just calling.
VK3DLN.
VK3DON?
DLN.
DRN. Okay, whereabouts are you, mate?
It's VK3 Delta Lima November.
Ah, VK3DLN. Okay. What's the name there again?
David.
Say again?
David.
Oh, okay, David. I think we spoke to you a few days ago. How have you been?
I haven't been on for a while, so yeah, I thought I'd pop on and say hello to you and Peter.
Okay, yeah. And which part of the world you in?
Rowville.
Rowville, okay. Well, that's about the same distance as Peter. You'd be about 10 or 12 kilometres.
Goodness me, David, I was thinking of ringing missing persons. It's been a long time. What have you been doing?
Oh, yeah, I know. I just thought I was just getting a little bit of feedback. Oh, not much. I decided to retire from work, so I'm basically working through my long service at the moment and end up off the books in October, so I just want to do more radio stuff.
Go on, Pete.
David and I sat our advanced exam on the same day.
Oh, okay. As I did with 3DQ.
Well, yes, no comment.
It was a slightly hilarious situation. 3DQ was sitting beside me, and he has a slight hearing problem, or did at that stage. This is 2006, 20 years ago. And anyway, I flipped over the paper, on a command from, I think it was that policeman at EMDRC, 3F something. And so I flipped the paper over and gave the questions a bit of a scan, and I thought, oh yeah, there's a couple of knotty ones there, but most of them I can do. And muttering next to me was, at the other end of the desk, was 3DQ. And I could hear him saying, oh no, I wasn't expecting this one, oh no. And unfortunately, I got the giggles. And if you've ever sat in an exam trying to think of how you're going to answer a question when you've got uncontrollable giggles, it's really unappreciated. That's the last thing you want. The other area in which I find if I start giggling that I lose the track is when I'm trying to copy CW. If somebody says something funny in CW, and I start giggling, I might as well give it away, because I've then lost about 3 or 4 words. Anyway, over to you, David. Hope you don't have those problems. VK3DLN, VK3AML.
It's Chris. Yeah, I'm just trying to work out. I'm using a 9700, and I seem to get like an echo when I'm talking.
I'm feeding you back so that everybody listening on 2 meters can hear you and Peter, because we have situations, and I'll give you the situation we had the other night. Somebody called into the chat who was in Emerald, which is behind the Dandenong Ranges for most, but I just happened to be in a spot in the eastern suburbs where I look up a valley that runs along Upway, Tacoma, Belgrave, probably with Emerald beyond. So I could get him and nobody else could. So feeding him back from 439.225, he could then join the conversation with everybody else because they could hear him through me. You get it?
Yeah, it just sounds a bit weird when you're talking and your voice is coming through at the same time.
Yeah. Well, at least there's no latency. If you do it with digital transmitting or on the internet with something like Skype, there's about 1/10 of a second of latency, and that really throws you when you hear that coming back to you.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, it throws me a little bit, but anyway, you're probably wondering how I found you guys, actually, because I'm actually a subscriber on your YouTube channel, Chris.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I haven't, when we had the lockdown for COVID, I thought to myself, now how, I can't go far from home. I think 5 kilometres was the regulation limit. I can't have my usual friends around. How can I increase my contact with other people? And I thought, well, I've got a few webcams here and I've got all the audio gear. Maybe I can set up an internet podcast each week. So I did so, but it did take a lot of time to set up, and it did take a lot of time to research and download the various documentary clips that I wanted to put up before the chat as a means of stimulating a subject to chat about. So when the COVID stopped, I decided to pull the plug on that and get back to normal life a little. But the amount of effort that it takes to just have a nightly crossband like this is much less, and I can handle that, particularly late at night when, all of the obligations of the day and getting dinner and all of that are over, and before I go to bed. And Peter and myself are night owls, most of the people here who call in are night owls, so it's just something that I've decided might have some potential as a gathering point each night. Back to you, Dave.
Yeah, because when I saw it, I thought, because I don't get much time on the radio, and I thought, well, now I'm retired, I can actually be a night owl myself, and and join in.
Yeah. Well, I'm sort of looking at other ways that this can be diversified, like running simultaneously a webcam here, perhaps podcasting on internet. The other thing is I could fire up 40 metres and get some interstate coverage, possibly even to New Zealand, if I'm simultaneously running YouTube live streaming. It's just a matter of experimenting a bit. I mean, tonight, for example, I have made a slight change. I have two desktop scanners here that I use as off-air monitors from which I run a log record, and also that I use to retransmit people from 70 SEMS. I have also a diplexer here that separates the two transmitters and the receiver operating through the one big antenna. It's a Kenwood MA4000 diplexer. And just the thing that strikes me is that how to get this known, how to get it all rolling. My predecessor with my call, Tony, used to have crossbands going just as much, but he used to transmit on 160 metres AM and receive on VHF. And these days it's very much harder to convert broadcast receivers to 160 than it was in the 70s, when you could get a mantle radio, a valve mantle radio, and just twiddle the oscillator trimmer to extend the broadcast band coverage to 1.8 megs. So I thought, do it VHF, UHF might have possibilities. Anyway, you might like to tell us what you've been up to, David.
Apart from work and my mum's on her own, I look after her as well, and just this work was getting a bit out of control, like doing 11-hour days and all that.
Ooh,
So I decided that I'm done, I'm retiring, and it's a bit scary at the moment, but we'll see how it all pans out.
Are you going to be on a carer's benefit for that, for your mother, or?
No, well, she lives on her own in Hampton East, so I generally go over there and, do odd jobs and that.
Right, okay. I'm just looking at your background there. Sherbrooke Community Radio Club. That means I would have met you face to face, surely.
That's correct, yep.
Oh, Christ, I'll have to think of which face it is.
You'll know at the next meeting.
Oh, right, okay. I haven't been to the meetings for about 12 months. Just one thing and another has sort of stood in the way of it. And
that's what I was going to tell you about, Dave. We're still meeting first Monday of the month. The format has changed a little bit. A couple of new, different people there. We don't have the radio porn videos anymore. We just sit around and talk crap for a few hours, but still good fun. And you'll know most of the people there. And question for you, Dave, have you been listening on this one, or is this the first time you've dropped in?
I listened. I listened on YouTube. That was on this, I think it was Saturday night.
Mm.
And then I actually listened to you guys last night. So I thought tonight I'd better jump in and say hello.
Glad you did.
Last night we got a bit political because Harry and I had both been involved with the very early days of 3CR, but all of that's 50 years ago now, so the sort of politics we were talking about is very much historical, not current. But it was interesting to compare notes. That was one of the ways that I got a start in broadcasting. Did a bit of work for ABC in a program called Double Take, which was a media review program in 1975 and 76. Was involved with the access radio experiment that the ABC tried starting in 1975, a station called 3ZZ Access Radio, which only lasted about 2 or 3 years. And then when 3CR started, originally from High Street, Armidale, I approached the WIA, specifically 3DH, the late Ivor Morgan, and got the Victoria Division to allow me to be representative of the Wireless Institute with Paul Higgins, who then was 18 or 19 and since has had a career on the ABC as a weatherman and newsman and documentary maker for Behind the News. And we ran a souped up version of the Sunday morning news broadcast for 3CR for the better part of 12 months, from the middle of 1976 to the middle of 1977. But at that stage, the station was starting to shift to the militant left. Neither of us particularly wanted to be associated with that. So Paul went on to work for 3MP and I went on to work for the ABC. But 3CR was an interesting sort of a stepping stone to a career. It wouldn't be a stepping stone now because it's too heavily political now. It's known as radical radio. At the time, it was known as alternative voice radio, which is a very different thing. It just evolved into something that was radical. So apologies to anybody who might have taken offence at the political nature of last night's discussion with Harry 3HFX, but it was...
I don't think it got quite that controversial, Chris. Put your mind at ease. Oh, one other thing to tell you, Dave. Most of us in the Knox Radio Amateur People, that's our new name. Crap. Well, not the official name. I think Greg KWX likes to think it's CARG, but we think of it as crap. We've all got Simico XSES radios on P25. There's a linked system similar to the RBA analog system, but on P25 with a handful of repeaters and one up in Cane Toad County. Tony 3AN comes along every so often to reprogram our radios with new frequencies and whatever else. But and I think he's due to visit next month too, if you've got any intention of coming. If you do, chuck a few Oxford Scholars in your pocket and you might come away with a P25 radio.
Ah.
Okay, P25 radio, what is that exactly?
Well, they're old, as I said, they're old SES radios that have been converted for our purposes. So they're orange, the SES colour, I guess. But yeah, it's another digital system. The audio's an improvement on Dumbstar, but that's not saying much. 2 tin cans with the length of string between them gives better audio than Dumbstar. But I should watch myself. You're talking with the 9700. You might like. We've struck 1 or 2 people that vigorously defended Dumbstar, haven't we, Chris?
One of them has passed away, though.
Well, yeah, he was a very ardent advocate for it.
I think he may have taken a fit as a result of what he heard from us.
Oh, yeah, Yes, yes. But anyway, Dave, so yeah, there's a thought.
No worries. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll definitely do the next one. I was going to go. I was going to go to the meeting just past, and I just couldn't get there. Mechanics still had my car, and yeah, so it didn't work out.
Oh, it was a terrible night weather-wise. Sorry, I'm so used to just hitting the TX button. I forgot I've got to wait for you to stop talking on 70.
No, that's all right.
I just realised, Dave, were you the guy... I had dinner at the Royal Hotel in Ferntree Gully, and there was a Dave at the table across from me. Are you that Dave?
That's correct. I'm that Dave.
Ah, right, a friend of 3EMB.
3EMB? Who's that?
Michael Barrett.
No, it wasn't. No, it's just because I went to the Cerebral Club and I ended up on the radio one night, and you said you were having tea at the Royal.
Ah.
So I thought, I'll go down there and have tea as well.
Now I have you placed. I think I've only seen you that one time. It might have been a second time we went to another hotel, the Ferntree Gully Hotel, I think. It was back closer to the city than the Royal. I forget the name of the place. Gosh, it's a while ago now. It would have been a couple of years, I think, Dave.
A couple of years, yeah. I've sort of, just went off into the distance for probably, I don't know, the last 18 months. So the only time I've had, I went camping with the club.
Yep.
Probably about 12 months ago, but yeah, it's just no time, but now I've got time.
Okay. You have an IC 7300, I'm reading, with an end-fed antenna as an inverted V. Okay, so are you feeding that from a 49-to-1 Balun or something?
That's, I've got a 9700, but I've got a triplexer on it, and that's feeding a Diamond X5000 tri-bander antenna.
Okay, so you can go on 23 SEMS?
Correct.
Aha. Yeah, that's the one band I've never tried. I'm not sure whether I'd find a use for it, actually. And the feed line losses up there can be pretty horrendous.
Tend to run the best quality coax for 23, especially as the radios are usually 10 watts or thereabouts. I'm rather encouraged that whilst Yaesu have yet to, and apparently according to Guy have no plans to bring out a 9700 equivalent, they are in the process, according to him, of bringing out a transverter or whatever to attach to the FTX radio to make it 23 centimetre friendly, which will be really cool. I've been living in hope that I can put my 9700 out in the hard rubbish, but that's not likely to happen anytime soon. So Dave, yeah, there's not much, other than field days, there's not much happening on 23, except I have a regular Monday night scared with a couple of people over the other side of town. But yeah, it's and even on the repeaters, it's very much a organised, a scared time, like it is with the. I know it's not. We think of it as microwave, even though it's still UHF. But yeah, it's organised an appointment to get on the radio on 23. I guess you'd already know that, Dave. Anyway, I've been wondering where you've been all this time, and congratulations about getting through to retirement. You'll be fine, Dave. Before you know it, you'll be saying, how did I ever find the time to go to work?
Oh, yeah.
It's actually interesting, yeah, because I'm already finding the days are longer.
You haven't adjusted yet by the sounds of that.
No.
You will.
I think you tend to expand your interests and activities to fill up the time space. That's been my experience anyway, and now I can't understand how I ever had the time to work. It's a consummation devoutly to be wished, and I'm very glad to be retired, and I think I'm doing some pretty good work in my retirement. I've instead of working on archival matters doing stuff for other people that they want me to do. I now concentrate on what I want to talk about or research. And I'm sort of on the circuit with U3A, adult education, historical societies, lecturing about early film, early radio, early television, media generally. But at the moment, for example, I've got a series of lectures coming up where I reassembled from scraps the official coverage of Kingsford Smith's first flight across the Pacific in 1928, the very first time that anybody had flown from America to Australia by air. It's not generally known, but they were carrying a movie camera, a small spring-wind camera, on the way from California to Australia, and at strategic points along the route, Hawaii, Suva, they had a stringer cameraman on the ground to cover the landings there. In California, the construction of the Southern Cross airplane was covered in detail, and that's all turned up in an American archive, but in bits. So I spent a couple of weeks on a video editor, reassembled it, and I've mixed it with an original recording of Kingsford Smith and Charles Ulm talking about the flight, recorded in 1928, so that we have some of the narration spoken in the first person singular, which really gives it, I think, a bit of an impact. Anyway, I'm touring that round the historical societies at the moment. I think the next historical society will be the what do they call themselves? The Sherbrooke Foothills Historical Society, and they have their meetings at Upwey, of all places. So that'll be, I think, the 19th of July. But then for the rest of July, I've got a lot of U3A coming up. Anyway, that's what I'm up to these days, Dave.
Oh, you are busy.
Yeah, it's a busy retirement, but I just feel that I would physically and mentally fall apart if I didn't do something like this to keep myself occupied. That's one of the problems of retirement. You don't want to... I've seen too many people retire from jobs where their whole life has been put into the job, and basically they retire and within 12 months drop dead. I have no intention of doing that. So, you know, I'm seeking activities. Ham radio, of course, what you're hearing at the moment is one. And the historical lectures are another, because I've been sort of absorbing information about historical films, historical sound recordings, and where the recordings are, what usage can be made of them for the past 55 odd years. So it's about time I pass the information on to others, and I'm enjoying doing so, and my wife and I are meeting some very interesting people in the course of doing it. So fear not, if you handle your retirement the right way, it can be one of the most creative periods of your life.
Absolutely. And Dave, information for you again, if you, the dinners are still on at the Royal, if you feel so inclined. Greg at QSL would love to have you.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, I will too. Could you two just talk among yourselves for a couple of minutes while I get a cup of coffee? I think I'm about to cough my lungs out, and it's better I don't do it on the microphone. Anyway, I'll leave you two to talk. I'll be back in about 3 or 4 minutes once the bug has joiled. Okay, Peter?
Okay, Chris, no drama. VK3DLN, VK3ACZ. Been a while since I've said that, Dave. Have you been operational at all, or have the cobwebs been growing on your antennas? Hi.
Yeah, the cobwebs have been growing on my antennas. Look, you know, some nights, like even last night on HF, it was like I got that much interference, but you know, I mean, I just switch it off and then. But yeah, I haven't been doing. I should be doing a lot more. I know that.
No, well, it's not compulsory. That's one of the really good things about it. By the way, just to comment on your signal, you're just up the road. I mean, Rowville's 5 k's from here. Don't know exactly where you are in Rowville, but it's a windy night, so your signal is bouncing around all over the place. I'm listening to you on the 2 metre link, but watching your signal on the gas meter, and so that's part of why we do the crossbanding anyway, because a couple of other stations like Maddie 3ARD down in Dandy, some days atmospherics are absolutely terrible. Funny thing is, though, the whole time we've been crossbanding, our direct simplex contacts have been easy as. Anyhow, so you're on the 9700. What other radios have you got? Chris said you've got a 7300. Anything else, or just those two?
I've got a 705 as well, and a Baofeng. The 705 I take camping with me.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the 705. It's my second favourite radio. I hope you're not recording that, because I don't want it used against me in a court of law, because I'm supposed to be the number one Yaesu fanboy around here. But a lot of fun. I've also got a tuner with the 705, and I kid you not, it would tune a rusty nail. Absolutely superb. What sort of Baofeng have you got? Is it one of the new minis?
No, the Baofeng's a old UV10R or something. It was the one I bought when I first got my license, and I never used it.
Well, yeah, you wouldn't. Everybody's going through the mini stage now. If you're not familiar with it, Google it up or have a look on YouTube. Videos about their fatter but thinner. That doesn't make sense, does it? They're a small unit compared to the original UV5, and they're pretty good. Mine are deaf on 2 metres, and I don't know whether that's local desensing or allows the antenna. No, I've tried different antennas, and they still desense. Sorry, they're still deaf as on 2 metres, but on 70 they're pretty good. Chris has been using one to rebroadcast us. We've been receiving us on 70 with a UV5 mini, whatever it's called, just the mini. They're pretty good, Dave, back to you.
Yeah, because even when tonight I actually turned it on for the first time in God knows how long, and I think because of the tin roof, I couldn't receive properly on 147, 475. And if I hold it at a certain angle, it'll receive, but yeah, it's not that great.
Well, they're good value for buck, given that they're so El Cheapo. And as I've found out a couple of times with the new Mini, I've dropped mine, and in attempting to grab it on the way down, I've actually hit the thing, which means it's gone further. And still no marks, no damage whatsoever. But of course, you don't cry if you do break them. That's another good thing about them.
And the receivers are as hot as hell. It's unbelievable. I tried them against a desktop scanner, a very expensive one from the 1980s, and it beat it hands down. The Baofeng was better from the point of view of adjacent channel rejection. The Baofeng was a lot better in terms of sig to noise at the front end. So, yeah. And
you're going to cry if you drop an $850 Icom ID52, but you're not going to cry if you drop your Baofeng.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all.
Yeah, well, conversation. I come back and the conversation screeches to a halt. I think I probably should take the hint. Anyway, Pete, it's getting on. It's 20 minutes past 12. We probably should start winding up. But thanks for coming on, Dave. I might see you the first Monday of July, which I think is still a couple of weeks off. And by the way, the Upway talk that I'm giving is not the 19th, it's the 12th. My wife had been listening in from the other room on a handheld. She was eavesdropping. And she said, "You got the wrong date here in my diary." So it's the 12th of July. I'll give further details as time goes on. But that'll be where we're showing the Kingsford Smith film with the help of the local historical society up there. I got to know them through their Facebook page originally. Anyway, Peter, anything else to pass on before we wrap?
No, Chris. Very happy to pull the pin now. Very grateful for the crossbanding, as always, on every occasion. It was good hearing even though it didn't sound to me as if it was an auroral flutter, or at least not some of the stuff I've had. I was just thinking too, I've not worked 2 metre auroral propagation. I've only done it on 6 metres. It'd be great to get a contact into VK4.
I was surprised.
The furthest I've gone on 2 metres is down to Hobart.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear it on 160 metres. I thought it would be fairly immune to that sort of thing.
Yeah, don't know enough about it, all things considered, but pointing a beam towards Aurora can be very, very interesting. Anyway, thank you again, Chris. Always good. I look forward to the evenings now.
Right.
And Dave, great to hear you. As I said, I don't have to call missing persons now, and I'll throw it over to you to tie the ribbon with Chris. Thanks for joining us, VK3DLN, VK3AML. This has been VK3ACZ. Catch you later.
Yeah, nice to speak to you again, Peter. And Chris, thank you very much for setting up this cross-banding. It was very interesting. For starters, I didn't really know how to do it at first. I'm glad it's working. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
It.
Thank you for coming on, Dave. It's really appreciated, and we're trying to get this known a little bit more widely, partly because it'll give me less, more room to occasionally walk out of the room and get myself a cup of coffee if there are more than 2 people on. Not that I have anything against Peter, but just it takes a bit of the weight off my shoulders. Tonight, Pete, just for your information, I've made a change. I wasn't using the Pro2022 scanner as an off-air monitor and recorder. I'm using an older desktop scanner that I had here unused for many years. I actually got it from Mangan Ryan, an old friend of mine from 3CR days. And it has significantly less oscillator noise on 2 metres than the other radio. So it means I'm making considerably cleaner off-air monitoring through my headphones, and it appears also to have very much broader IF bandwidth, so that the trebles are not compromised as they are with the other radios. So it'll be interesting to see if I make it into an unlisted YouTube clip how the audio compares. It's an entirely different monitoring arrangement. Anyway, Peter and Dave, thanks for being there. I'll now announce, as I always do, this is VK3 Alpha Mike Lima on 2 metres, 147.475, and I've been working crossband to 439.225. I'll now take a brief listen on 2 metres for any responses there. If nobody comes back, I'll pull the big switch. Thanks, fellas. All the best. VK3AML now listening on 2.